today we are reading about maple syrup and how they make maple syrup. What? You've read, have you?
We made maple syrup candy in the snow.
Oh, you did? How was it? What? It didn't work very well. I know, I've tried it too. Did you make your maple syrup?
Yeah. No.
Oh, you got the maple syrup from the store.
We bought the maple syrup
Okay.
from the store.
Well, you know what?
It was too sweet.
Was it too sweet? It has a lot of sugar in it, doesn't it? So today we're going to see how maple syrup is made. And I'm going to read, the first book I'm going to read is a true story. And it's about a little girl who grew up and she lived in Iowa part of the time. So this story may have happened in Iowa. It doesn't say. You can tell from her house. It's a log cabin. And her family probably made it. So they were used to making all their own things because they didn't have stores they could go to. Are you comfortable? Do you want to sit on the floor in front here so you can see?
Wants to hold his brother.
Oh. Okay. So this is called Sugar Snow. Okay. Once upon a time, a little girl named Laura lived in the big woods of Wisconsin. So it's not Iowa, it's Wisconsin. In a little house made of logs. And you can see she has a dog. Her dog's name is Jack. Laura lived in the little house with her pa, her ma, her big sister Mary, her baby sister Carrie, and their good old bulldog Jack. So they all lived together in the little house. And here you can see their little house made of logs. Probably Pa made the house. Spring was coming to the big woods. Is spring coming to us? Is it going to be spring pretty soon? It is, but does it look like it today? No. So spring was coming to the big woods. For days the sun shone and the weather was warm. All day the icicles fell one by one from the little house. See all those icicles? I saw some that fell from my house yesterday. Did you? See, the sun is out. And I can tell you a secret. The way that we know it's time for maple syrup to start is because when the days are warm and the sun is out, but the nights are still cold, below freezing. And that, look, she's looking out and there's a little puddle. The days are warmer, their snow is melting. One day, Laura saw a patch of ground showing through the snow. May I go out to play, Ma, she asked. And Ma said, tomorrow you can. There she's tucking them in. That night, Laura woke up shivering. Her nose was icy cold. Ma tucked another quilt around her. Snuggle close to Mary, Ma said, and you'll get warm. So it's still cold at night, but it was warm in the day, and that's when you can start making maple syrup. In the morning, Laura looked out the window, and the ground was covered with soft, thick snow. Pa came in, stomping that snow off of his boots. It's a sugar snow, he said. And we'll find out later why he called it a sugar snow. Laura quickly tasted a snowflake from Pa's sleeve, but it didn't taste like sugar. Why is it a sugar snow, Pa? She asked, and Pa said he would explain tonight when he came home from Grandpa's. Do you want to sit down so your brother can see behind you? It was late when Pa came home that night, and he came in with a big bucket and 2 little packages. He gave the bucket to Ma and the packages to Laura and Mary. What do you think is in there? Oh, you've read the book, haven't you? The bucket was full of dark brown maple syrup. When Laura opened her little package, she found a little hard brown cake with beautifully crinkled edges. Laura bit off one of the little crinkles, and it was sweet. It is maple sugar, said Pa. Supper was ready, and Laura and Mary laid their little maple sugar cakes by their plates while they ate maple syrup on bread. They put syrup on bread. Have you ever put syrup on bread? Me neither. But they probably didn't have pancakes. After supper, Pa took them on his knees and he sat by the fire and told them all about his day at Grandpa's and the sugar snow. So let's see what they did. All winter, Pa said, Grandpa has been making wooden buckets for the maple syrup. When the first warm weather came, he took the buckets out in the woods and put each one by a maple tree. Then he drilled a small hole and put in a little spigot. So there the sap can run out into the buckets. And you see little drips are coming because when it starts to get warm, yeah, you found some, didn't you? When it starts to get warm, the roots of the tree way down under the ground start to pull that moisture up and they send it up the tree so the leaves can grow. They need sugar. That makes energy for them and that makes the leaves grow. So the tree is sucking that sap up the tree to get way up to the leaves. Some trees are really high, aren't they? But the tree knows how to get that sap to go up. And their grandfather tapped a little bit, so he's not taking a lot, but he's taking a few drips out of every tree. And then he collects it all and puts it in a big pot, and he puts a fire under it, and he boils it and boils it and boils it for a very long time. After all the buckets were full, he boiled all the sap in a big iron kettle until it turned into maple syrup. Then he cooled some of that sweet syrup into cakes of hard brown maple sugar. And that's the little cakes they had. Is that why it's called sugar snow? Because Grandpa made sugar? Asked Laura. No, said Pa, it's called sugar snow because the snow at this time of year helps the tree to make more sap for the syrup. The tree needs lots of water down at its roots to send that sap up the tree. Then it was time for bed. By the time Laura and Mary had washed their sticky fingers, have you had syrup get on your fingers? It's kind of sticky. They were snug in their beds and Pa took his fiddle out and they were singing. Pa sang them off to sleep. So that was their maple syrup story. But I have another one that tells a little bit more about how the syrup is made. And this one is also a long time ago because they're using a horse. The people at the Nature Center use trucks and tractors. They don't use horses. Oh boy, she wants to go, doesn't she? Maple syrup season. So you can see in maple syrup season, is there snow on the ground? And are there little animals? Can you see the squirrel? Where's the squirrel? There's the squirrel. What other animals do you see in this picture? A bunny? A fox? Yeah.
Deer.
And a deer. What's the deer doing?
It's a fawn.
Yeah, it's a fawn. How can you tell?
It has dots.
The spots. That's right. What is that fawn doing? He's eating the maple syrup that they got out of their tree, isn't he? He's not supposed to do that. I bet he does, doesn't he? Uncle John leads the horse. It pulls the sled that carries Hannah and Hayden through the deep snow. You do? Oh my gosh. They are breaking out a trail from the farmhouse to Grandpa's sugar bush. Sap is running in the old sugar maple trees. So he's leading the horse, and these two children, Hannah and Hayden, are going to watch them make syrup. What other animals do you see in the picture?
A dog.
Yeah?
A bear.
A bear.
A squirrel. A bird. A fox.
Yeah. There's some other one. Did you talk about the bears? Yeah.
Owl.
And the owl, yeah? Okay. We don't have bears in Iowa anymore. We used to, but we don't have anymore. When you have a place that doesn't have an animal anymore, that's called extirpated. So the black bears have been extirpated from Iowa. So here's Uncle John, and he said, the sap is running. He tasted what was in the bucket, and he said, the sap is running. And they're all so happy. Grandpa drills a hole and hammers in the spout. He hangs a bucket, and soon the first plunk of sap hits the metal bottom. Sap is rising, Grandpa shouts, and the whole family cheers. And look how many people it takes to collect maple syrup. It is hard work. It takes lots and lots of people. So it says Grandpa and the uncles and Dad drill the holes in the tree.
And the board is eating the maple syrup.
I know. 2 bigger cousins follow and they clean out the holes with little
He
sticks.
thinks it's a board house.
He does. It looks like one, doesn't it? Grandma and Aunt Hattie hammer in the spouts, and Hannah and Hayden hang buckets while their younger cousins put little roofs or little hats on the bucket. Why would they put little hats on top of the bucket?
Because they don't want the animals to eat it.
That's right. They're trying to keep the deer from eating it and the birds from eating it, and maybe just sticks and leaves from falling in. They're trying to keep it as clean as they can. The sun fades as the last bucket and hat are hung. If there's warm sunshine, the buckets will fill with sap in 1 day or maybe 2. If the wind blows in the freezing air and the sky is cloudy, it will take longer. So when we have sunny days, the sap goes faster. I'll keep an eye on the buckets, Grandpa says. Grandma will telephone when it's time to take the sap to the sugar house. So someone has to stay out and watch those buckets. He's not bothering anything, if you don't mind. Uh-oh,
He's eating the maple syrup.
what happened?
He's eating the maple syrup.
And look what happened to the little hat. Who's playing with that?
The squirrel.
A little squirrel's playing with their hat. That didn't work, did it? But most of them stayed on. 3 days later, the buckets brim with clear sap, and the family is back to Grandpa's sugar bush. Mom and Aunt Hattie prepare.
Coming to check on the syrup.
Yeah, that's right. So now they collect all those full buckets. It takes lots of grown-ups to do that because they're very heavy, and they put them in one big bucket that the horse is going to carry back. Look what they did in the picture. Who's helping pull the sled?
The raccoon and the bunny.
Do they really help pull sleds? No, that's a silly story, isn't it? Okay, and here's the horse. The horse is helping himself, isn't he? When the sap comes out of the tree, it's not like maple syrup yet. It's almost just, you do. It's almost just like water. So look, it takes all the grown-ups to dump their big bucket into their special machine, and they have a big fire going. See the fire? They have to boil and boil and boil that maple syrup, and guess how many buckets of sap it takes to make 1 bucket of syrup?
15.
40.
Wow.
It's a lot of work. They have to boil a lot of water out. When sap comes out of a tree, it has 1 or 2% sugar in it. When they decide it's done, it has 66.9% sugar. So it's a lot. When the steam comes up, it's sticky, very sticky. So they usually do it outdoors. The sap bubbles pop and boil, and someone has to watch it all the time, even all night, because it takes a long time to boil that. So they have to stay all night and watch it and keep changing it and stirring it. And sometimes it can snap and pop and even explode. So they have to keep stirring the bubbles out. But then finally, and some people are scooping out sticks or leaves, things that may have fallen into it. And then finally, when they put their stick in and it has just the right amount of what they call sheeting, when the maple syrup sticks to the stick, then they call it sheeting, and they test it, and it's all done. So see how the steam is all over, and all the animals are smelling all that sweet smell. And here they are. He put his ladle in, and the maple syrup stayed on it in kind of a sheet. Whoop. And now they know it's ready. So Uncle John opens the spigot, and the golden stream goes into his bucket. And then they have to filter it one more time. They pour it through some cloth to make sure no sticks or leaves or anything are in it. And then they put it in special jars, And maple syrup comes in all different colors, so they have to grade it. The very first sap that goes up the tree in the spring, early spring, is called fancy, and it's very light and a little bit less sweet. And then a few days later, it gets a little thicker, a little stronger, and a little darker. And that's grade B, and then they have grade C and grade D. So the first one, this is the first one, it's nice and light and fresh syrup. And here's their grandma tucking all the kids in bed because guess what? All the grown-ups have to stay up all night to keep the fire burning underneath all that maple syrup.
Look at the house.
Look, yeah, see the lights on. They're in there working.
Look at the house. What about the house?
Oh, look at
The house.
those leaves.
Oh, there's a snow all around.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You can only see upstairs window.
Yeah. The sun tops the trees and the snowflakes wisps float in the air. And after breakfast, here's what you guys tried. After breakfast, Hannah and Hayden smoothed down fresh snow with their fresh rakes, and Grandma dribbles warm syrup that quickly turns to sparkling rivers and ponds in the sweet, it turns into sweet, chewy taffy. Sort of chewy, sticky stuff that they can eat.
That's what was
Uh-huh. And the grandma said, "Sugar on snow." And when she says that, everybody comes running from all their jobs because they all want to try that sugar on snow taffy. And it says some of the ladies like to twirl their fork in it and get it kind of twirled up to eat it. And the kids just grab it with their fingers. So that's what they love, their sugar in snow. And I have one more story about maple syruping, which is kind of long. So we're going to look at the pictures and I'll tell you about it. This one is I'm not going to read every word because it's kind of a lot. But look at this whole family. They have a big maple syrup house, and they're coming from all over the place. And again, this is an older time, a long time ago when they had horses. But now the people at the conservation office still go out and collect maple syrup the same way these guys did, but they use trucks instead of horses. And guess what else they can do? Instead of having a little spigot on the tree, remember how the maple syrup went into buckets? Instead of carrying these little buckets around like this guy is, they make a tube, and they send that tube all the way over to the big bucket so they don't have to keep emptying little ones. And that way the twigs and the grass doesn't fall in it, and the deer don't lick it out. So that's a little bit cleaner that way. Okay, let's look at what they do. See, they're all gathering together for this special sugar time. And here's a grandmother telling how it used to be when she was little. Everybody came with their horses. It took a lot of people to get ready. And they all gathered together, and they had to get a fire going. And the fire had to keep going and going and going as long as they had maple syrup to cook. And the children all had jobs to do, and the lady who's telling the story had 2 cousins, and they weren't very nice. So they were always pushing and shoving. That's not very nice, is it? No. They all got together and they cooked their maple syrup, some of it in the house. And all the children were watching and watching it. And look how many people it took. They had to feed everyone all for many days to get all their maple syrup done. And they had lots of fun. They played their music and they danced and sang. She found something, didn't she? So here they are laughing and laughing. And now they're going to have their toffee. Let's see. They put it in the snow, and these kids had little sticks, and every child had a little stick, and they swirled it in that maple syrup in the snow and brought it up, and it was like a snowy toffee popsicle. So that's how that family did it. Yeah. And then when it's all done, everybody loads back in their sleighs, ride back home again. And everybody heads back home because it took so many people to get together for that fun time. So the sap going up the tree only lasts sometimes 4 weeks, about, so 1 month. So all the maple syrup we eat,
40 days.
maybe, So all the maple syrup we have all year long is made in that little tiny bit of time. So it happens quick. Okay, I have one more. Here it is. This story is about pancakes. Do you like pancakes? What do you put on you?
There's a face. Eyes and the nose and the mouth.
So is this a real book? Not quite. How about
And the eyebrows.
yeah. What do you put on your pancakes at home when you have pancakes?
I have race cards and general
You do?
like
Still.
frosting or M&Ms.
Frosting or M&Ms, that would be yummy. Do you put syrup on your pancakes sometimes? Oh, you forgot.
Sometimes I put on vanilla syrup.
Oh, yeah.
And chocolate chips or M&Ms.
That would be in your dreams, right?
No, not in
Yes,
my
that's
dreams,
right. Is this an author you like? I think he's the author and the artist. I think he does both. Okay, let's see what. Have you read this book? Who did Go Dogs Go? Oh, right. This is called Pancakes, Pancakes.
I like him.
Kikiri, crowed the rooster. Jack woke up, looked out the window, and thought, I'd like to have a big pancake for breakfast. There's Jack. He's looking out the window. Jack's mother was already up and busy. Mother, said Jack, I'd like to have a big pancake for breakfast. And Mother said, I am busy. You will have to help me, she said. How can I help? Asked Jack. Well, we'll need some flour, she replied. Take a sickle and cut as much wheat as the donkey can carry. Take it to the mill. The miller will grind it into flour. When Jack had cut enough wheat and put it on the donkey's back and took it to the miller, look what he did to get his pancake. Wow, do you have to do that to get your pancakes? No. You don't have to hitch up the donkey and cut the wheat? Here's the mill where they're going to grind that wheat. Can you grind this wheat for me, he asked. I need it for a big pancake. Well, first we must separate the grain from the chaff, said the miller. He gave Jack a flail and spread the wheat on the ground. The miller took another flail and began to beat the wheat with it. Jack helped with the threshing, and soon there was a big pile of straw and chaff and a small pile of grain. So the grain is little tiny bits on a big stem, and they need those little tiny bits of grain off of the big stem. The miller poured the grain on a large flat stone. On top of it was a round millstone connected to the water wheel on the outside. The water wheel turned round and round, turning the millstone, and it ground it into flour. At last the miller handed Jack a bag of flour. Now he can go home and get a pancake, right?
Yeah.
Let's see.
You didn't have any flour.
Here's the flour, shouted Jack. Let's make a pancake. But his mother said, now we need eggs. Uh-oh. Jack went to the black hen and fed her some grain that had slipped into his pocket while he'd been threshing. Cluck, 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 said the black hen, and she went inside the hen house. Then she said, cluck, 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 once more, and laid an egg. Now can he have his pancake? Let's see. Here's an egg, said Jack. Let's make a pancake. But his mother said, now we need milk. Jack went to the spotted cow and began to milk her. Moo, said the spotted cow as the milk squirted into the pail. Here's the milk, shouted Jack. Let's make a pancake. Do you think they're going to make a pancake? But his mother said, now we need some butter. Jack got the butter churn and held it between his knees. His mother scooped the cream from the top of the milk and put it in the butter churn. Jack pushed the churn handle up and down, and finally the cream turned into butter. "Here's the butter," shouted Jack. "Let's make a pancake." But his mother said, "Now we need to build a fire." So Jack went to the woodshed and brought in the firewood. "Here's the firewood," shouted Jack. "Let's make a pancake." But his mother said, "Wouldn't you like to have something sweet on your pancake?" So Jack went down to the cool cellar and pulled out maple syrup, do you think? Nope, a strawberry jam from one of the shelves. They didn't have maple syrup. "Here's the strawberry jam," shouted Jack. "Let's make a pancake." In the kitchen, Jack's mother had filled the table with the flour, the egg, the milk, the butter. There was also a mixing bowl, a cup, a wooden spoon, a ladle, a frying pan, a plate, a knife and a fork and a spoon, and a jar of strawberry jam. And his mother said, "Put a cupful of flour into the bowl. Break an egg into the flour and stir. Pour a cupful of milk over the flour and eggs and stir it again until the butter is smooth without any lumps." Jack's mother heated the frying pan over the fire, added a piece of butter. The butter melted fast, and then she said to Jack, "Now pour a ladleful of batter into the pan." Ooh, that's a lot of fire. He has to be careful, doesn't he? You can close that door if you want to. After a minute or two, she looked at the underside of the pancake. It was golden brown. "Now watch," she said. "I'll turn the pancake over. Ready?" "Ready," shouted Jack. "Flip," said the mother, and up and over went the pancake, high in the air, and landed right back in the pan. In another minute or two, the pancake was crisp on the outside and the underside as well. Then she slipped the pancake from the frying pan onto the plate and spread some strawberry jam on it. "And now, Jack," his mother started to say, but Jack said, "Oh, Mama, I know what to do now." What did he do?
No.
He finally got to eat his pancake, didn't he? But he didn't have any maple syrup.
That'd be pretty good with strawberry jam, don't you think?
Yeah.
Especially when we do blueberry pancakes.
I don't know. I like that frosting and M&M's idea. That was a pretty good idea. Okay, it is time to go for a walk. Are you ready to go for a walk? Okay.